Welcome back to the College Football UK podcast brought to you by the AAW Network. I am your host, Fletch, and as always, I am joined by my wonderful co hosts. We have Nick in his wonderful attire that he's wearing, that seems
Notre
appropriate
Dame
today.
Green.
Notre Dame green attire. If you are listening on audio only, I can't say the words that it says on his t-shirt. That'd be disgusting. We don't
F
swear on this
Miami.
podcast. F Miami. Yes, we don't swear on this podcast. That'd be never. Also joining me, if you didn't just hear his voice there, is Sam. Gents, how are we this week?
I'm having a great week.
Yeah, I've had a semi-good week.
I have. I'm going to follow this up and say that, like, I
Feel
didn't
like I've,
care. Go on.
I feel like I've aged about 10 years after Sunday. But apart from that,
Oh yeah. So I mean, actually, to be fair, Nick had rooting interests in the national championship to an extent. Nick had, you both had teams who won in the NFL playoffs this weekend. Me, I've just had it miserable. My team got battered in the Manchester Derby, then got
Oh,
battered by a bunch of Norwegian fishmongers. Like, and then I had to just watch the game of the national championship with no rooting interest. It's been a crap few days for sports, as far as I care. Um, but I'm happy for you both. So
I
happy for
mean,
you both.
City did put a
Yeah,
dampener on my weekend, but
yeah,
thankfully the Patriots and Indiana, brought it straight back up again, and then
yeah.
City just tried to bring it back down again. But hey, it ebbs and flows. It is what it is. So could be worse. I could be a United fan.
This is very, very, very true. Um,
what at least they got a win at the weekend.
Oh
Shut up,
wow!
Sam.
Ouch!
Shut up, Sam.
Ouch!
These aren't the bears you want to poke this week, right? They're the wrong bears
Oh,
to
they
poke.
are. If we were doing a football podcast, I'd be poking those bears constantly.
Yeah. Um. Anyway, so it's the 2025 college football season, lads. It's over. Bar two games. We still have the Shrine Bowl. We still have the Senior Bowl. But the actual season in and of itself is over. It is in the rear view. And this is what we are here to talk about today. We are supposed to have a guest. He is hopefully going to be on his way. Let me just double check. Um, if he joins, great. If not, it is what it is, but we'll hopefully have a guest on, an Indiana fan returning, Will Vincent. And if you can't tell by the fact that we have an Indiana fan returning and you've lived under a rock for 2 days and we're the people who are going to break the news to you that Indiana have won the national championship, one,
Woo!
one, really, really appreciate you seeing us as this important within your life, but also like, come on, man, we're not that important. Um,
Can I just say, the state of Indiana is now the epicenter of college football. The ground zero, the eye of the storm. Forget the fact that the College Football Hall of Fame is in Atlanta. They should be moving the Hall of Fame to the state of Indiana now because the MacGuffin resides in South Bend and the
it does.
Natty resides in Bloomington. So I'm sorry, but the state of Indiana rules college football right now. We are the most important state until Greenland becomes a state, but that's different.
I am all here for Nick being the one to bring up the MacGuffin, by the way. Absolutely all here for it. I hope it obviously has nothing to do when you only care about the MacGuffin now that Notre Dame are the holders of it.
Well,
But
obviously, yeah.
um, well, should it get taken back off them? It's a stupid stat that no one cares about. It doesn't really exist. And then, okay, so yes, Indiana are the national champions after defeating Miami 27-21 at the on Monday night even slash Tuesday morning our time. We will get into the game, but first, as is always customary, we're gonna head over to Nick's news.
Okay.
We've got no Gary here, so
Um,
I'm going to have to do the beep, 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 beep.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Um, as we know, the Wild West that is NIL is fully spinning round and causing trouble. Um, Duke quarterback Darian Mensah signed last year and signed a 2-year deal. Signed a 2-year deal, got paid his 4 million NIL last year, and is destined to get his 4 million NIL this year. Oh no. Even though he signed a 2-year deal, he decided to re enter the transfer portal this week because he wants to go and play for Miami. Why he'd want to play for Miami, I don't know, but hey, there you go. So
Because they make
he
the
enters
playoffs.
the. Wow. Wow. Anyway, I'll ignore that. So Darian
They,
Mensah
they,
enters the portal.
they have got to a 90 a lot more recently.
Well, we got to one last year. We did it first. Yeah. Um, so Darian Mensah enters the portal this week, which then Duke kick off, and they then sue him personally, and launch an injunction to stop him signing for anybody. A judge has said that Mensah can stay in the portal, can go to visit any team he wants, decide who he wants to play for, but he can't actually sign for that team until the situation has been resolved. The situation may not be resolved until 6 to 8 weeks from now. And that's just to sort out the injunction to decide whether he can or can't sign with anybody. The fact that Duke is still suing him would still be ongoing. But, you know, this is all part of this, and there's no rules to NIL. This is the whole issue that we've talked about over the last sort of 12, 18 months, that it is because there's no rules to it, it is that wild west of just the more money you've got, you know. Yeah. So that's going to be a mess that will need working out. Obviously, there's the news from last week that um, John Mateer, Trinidad Chambliss, they are all still trying to legally use the courts to try and get an extra year in college football. I didn't realize John Mateer was going for his 8th year in college football, but maybe try and go up a level.
In,
Um,
insert Steve Buscemi. How are you doing, fellow kids? Clip.
yeah. Um, Alberto Mendoza, younger brother of Heisman winner, um, leaves the Hoosiers a champion and signs for Georgia Tech. Now, Georgia Tech's offense last year was very run heavy with Haynes King. Mendoza can run, but he can also throw. So I think it probably for the Yellow Jackets, it probably opens up a few more pages of the playbook. So we'll see how that goes. The Big 12 conference game as next season winds to a close, or the regular season winds to a close. The Big 12 conference game will now be played on a Friday night. Don't know why they've decided that, but 4th of December, it's a Friday. They will play their conference game on a Friday night. And some portal trends that have been noticed. Schools are overpaying players early on in the window. It's preferred to sign a new player as to try and retain an older player. If you've got someone on your roster who's, say, for example, a linebacker, he will want more money to stay than you can pay a new linebacker to come in. So it seems to be more of out with the old and in with the new. And the more players you sign in the transfer portal, the better. They are the trends from what analysis of this year's portal so far have done. That
Right.
is that is the news from me.
Lovely. Sam, have you got anything?
No, there's only just transfer portal stuff, but I think we're going to leave that for its own
Yeah.
week, aren't we? So there's no point going through
Yeah.
any of those.
No worries. I got a couple of bits. We just missed out on talking about it last week. Dante Moore is staying at Oregon for another year. Obviously, it was like the Thursday The day after, sorry, we had
morning.
our
Yeah.
last episode, he confirmed that he was staying at Oregon. He's not going to the draft. Obviously, they've just signed Dylan Raiola. So it was then reported, and some idiot who's clearly hacked our Twitter account and Instagram account and all the other accounts went in and posted this fake news story that I subsequently went and deleted, but it definitely was not me who fell for it and posted it. That Dylan Raiola had immediately jumped back into the transfer portal and looked to leave. Um, it definitely wasn't me, and to whoever hacked you, that just wasn't funny. That was horrible. Um,
It's like Max
but it,
Crosby all over again.
Yeah, it's just disgraceful behaviour. I mean, we're not that, but I get it. We're a massive franchise of the pillar of American football news globally. But I just don't see why they would do
It's
that to
quite
us.
it's quite an interesting point though, because Dylan Raiola signed for Oregon, and he was told when he signed that, if Dante Moore comes back, you will be number two for a year, but then you will have your final year as number one. Or if Dante Moore goes to the draft, you'll be number one for 2 years. At that point, whether you would have signed, I don't know, because you've
Oh,
only got 2 years left. Can you really waste a year sat behind somebody? Especially when you're playing at a different school. It's quite a bold decision.
In all fairness, though, I think in credit to Dylan Raiola, I
no,
think that if he's given the opportunity, he could easily fight for that number one. There's no guarantees that Dante Moore
No,
keeps
true.
that number one spot, especially if Dylan Raiola proves himself enough to be given an opportunity, or if Dante Moore gets injured or whatever.
I
Yeah.
think I mean yeah, you've got all that, but I actually think just I wasn't the greatest fan of Dylan Raiola this year. I think as much as he did some improvements from the off season, being with Matt Rule, and just some of the things that he was doing this year, like he was okay. He was slightly better than being a freshman, but still has a lot to work on. I actually think that maybe going to somewhere like Oregon and sitting for a year behind potential top five draft pick Dante Moore might provide him more help and support, and being in a room with Dan Lanning and the Oregon staff might be a better move for him than sticking with Nebraska and staying with Matt Rule and being a starter for another year, or maybe even going somewhere else and being a starter. It could turn out to be. I think he can win out of this if he takes it as the opportunity that it is to potentially sit behind someone, learn. If you take a 9 game, if they 9 game red shirt a year as well now, you
Yeah.
he could potentially go back and say, well, can you retroactively do my 2025 season as a nine game red shirt because he only played 9. It could he can win out of it. He just has to do it the right way and go about it the right way. Um, and then yeah, so there's that, and US President Donald Trump is to sign an executive order granting the Army versus Navy game its own 4 hour broadcast window. That was how it was always done. It was the week after the championship weekends, and to be fair, it was its own day for a long time until the last couple of years, where broadcasters have said like, look, we want to shoehorn in another game after it. Um, I just don't
It's
want to don't.
effectively like our FA Cup final, isn't it? The FA Cup final
Yeah.
has its own window where no other games play at that time, even though games can kick off before and after.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
But it will have its like I say, it'll have its own dedicated 4 hour broadcast window. Now, I have some thoughts on this, as I'm sure does everybody. Not appropriate for this podcast. Not something I want to get into at this moment in time. But yeah, that's at the end of it's news. Relates to college football. Is what it is. That's all I really had as far as news goes myself. Everything else, like Sam said, like you said, Nick, it's all transfer portal and all that sort of stuff news. Um, and that's due to end over the next few days. Once that's all done by next week, maybe over the next few couple of weeks, we'll have a dedicated episode to transfer portal and recruitment because, well, as the playoffs kick off and we only do an episode a week, we just didn't have the time to be able to talk about it. We will do an episode on it. It may end up going down as a separate, as a bonus episode for everyone. If so, just congratulations. You are so lucky. Or I'm really, really sorry that you get an extra heaping of us. You don't have to listen to. You don't have to. It's not the law. Um. So the only fair we start to get into the national championship game. As mentioned slightly earlier in this podcast, Indiana walk away 27-21 winners. They win the first national championship in the program's history. They went unbeaten 16 and 0. First team to go 16 and 0, by the way. Um, where do we start? Where do we start on this one?
Well, if like Pat McAfee, I had a crowd behind me, I'd start a Hoosiers chant. But as I haven't got a crowd behind me and I've only got you two, I'll just not bother.
Okay.
So that's where I was going to start, but I've just changed my mind.
Are you not going to stand on the chair and everything and do it? No.
No, no,
I'm
I've,
disappointed a little bit. I would call back.
no, I'm not going to do
Oh,
it.
okay. Um, I think all right. Well, where we'll get going is pre-game. A lot of the talk was around. Look, you go back to the semi-final. That was a 95-5 Indiana split in terms of crowd. The game was in Miami. Maybe not quite as expected that that Indiana would have that much of an advantage. But the question was just how much of an advantage could Indiana get? Technically, say in Miami's own stadium, how much of an advantage could they get?
Miami were the
Looked,
away team. They had to go and use the away dress. They couldn't even use their own dressing room. They had to use the away dressing room because
but
Indiana had the Miami dressing room.
but I'm pretty sure, right? And I read this somewhere. I can't be too sure. I should have done a bit more research on it. But apparently, there are four dressing rooms in Hard Rock.
Yes,
You got the Dolphins' home dressing room,
yes,
the Hurricanes' home dressing room, and then you've got the NFL away, college
and the
away
collie, right?
dressing
Yeah,
room. So they had to use like basically number four on the list of dressing rooms.
yes.
Lovely.
And they had to stand on the side that has all the that they usually send all the away teams to in the sun. And obviously, it was played at night,
Yeah.
so it didn't matter. But they were on the wrong side of the field to what they would normally be on. They were in a different. They were in a different. I mean, when we say about a different dressing room, we're not talking like it's a wooden bench with splinters on that you used to get on Sunday morning football. We're not talking about. I'm pretty sure it was luxurious enough, but
It's
you know,
still designed to be a lot more basic, isn't it? It's a lot smaller and a lot more basic.
Bit more
yeah.
compact, bit less going on. Oh, not sure. I wonder what laws are put into place. I guess say laws like what's kind of put into place by the NCAA or the College Football Playoff Committee where they're like, no, you at least have to have because it's the national championship and the idea is that it's two teams that don't play in that stadium. You have to at least have these facilities within the room. And given the week that it was, it'd be the normal Hard Rock staff that are putting everything together. It'd be the normal people who would be doing all that sort of stuff. What they were able to just make sure was in that dressing room. A couple of extra screens that you wouldn't normally afford to the road
Hmm.
team. Some extra heaters, some extra this, some extra that you just wouldn't normally afford to a road team.
I mean, I can't speak for the NCAA, but like for example, if over here, if you want to be eligible to host a Champions League final game, then your stadium must have certain stuff, and within the change rooms, it has to be a certain size and has to contain certain stuff like exercise bikes, so many. So, and then if you want to host like a UEFA Cup game or a Europa Conference game, then the it has to be a certain dressing rooms have to be a certain size and. So there are over here with regards to our football, there are certain rules which they have to conform to, but you don't
Yeah,
have to put any of the luxuries in.
yeah.
So
Um, I mean, it did look like roughly a 60-40 split to Indiana, by the way, in terms of fans. But either way, the whole game was loud. it was really, really loud and it was really, really impressive. The atmosphere. It was like the most expensive CFP game in history. So, but I'm not quite sure.
See,
What?
because I had it on the radio because I was driving, because I had it on the radio, and it's obviously they're in a sound booth and whatever else. I didn't get all the crowd noise and everything. I only got it when they were picking up microphone feeds off the actual off pitch level.
Yeah,
Otherwise, most of the time I was just getting the two guys in the sound booth. So I didn't get
yeah.
as much of the atmosphere as probably you did watching at home.
Right. Did you listen to the whole thing on the radio
Yes, pretty
in
much,
its
yeah.
entirety? Right. I've got questions for you later on.
Mm,
Because I'd
okay.
love. There are things I like radio coverage. I obviously don't sit there and take the radio coverage, but I love listening to radio coverage, especially after a game on
Yeah.
certain calls. Um, First quarter. Let's go into the actual game itself. We get to the first quarter. Um, it was tough. It was a tough game, and then I think the first thing I'll start with is the Miami defensive line was mean, very, very mean. Um, the you can tell almost instantly the goal was you get right in Mendoza's face. And I remember tweeting out at one point, you give it the old get one in on him early and let him know you're in the game
Yeah.
type deal. Um, what did you guys think as we're starting, particularly on that Miami defensive line, and the way Miami attacked the defense, the Miami offensive line and got to Mendoza and got him behind the line. Obviously, there are some comments and some things that we'll bring up in a second, but just to start off on that battle itself.
I mean, I thought it was very calculated. Because if you flip back to a year ago, you know, it was Notre Dame drove all the way down, scored a touchdown, and then no sooner did they give the ball back to Ohio State. Ohio State just drove all the way down the other end and scored a touchdown of their own. And it was quite last year was quite a fast, intense start, whereas this year I felt it was a lot more calculated. I thought Miami offensively from the start, I thought they were a bit undercooked. I didn't
Yeah.
think they did. They seemed to start a bit slow on the offense, and I think that's that 10 point lead that Indiana went into the half with ultimately is what won them the game because although Miami outscored Indiana in the second half, they couldn't make up that deficit, and that was just while their defense was playing well, their offense was just slow to start in those first two quarters,
Yeah.
and I think that's what they paid the price on.
I think it was also kind of one of the things that we talked about pre-game was around could Indiana stop Fletcher making big plays? And for a whole half, they stopped him from doing literally anything.
Yep.
I think they only had something like 20 yards of offense on the ground in the first half, and that was a massive tell,
Yeah, they
especially
did.
when you look at his second half performance where he put up, you know, over like around 90 yards. So it's like the difference in the way that Indiana prevented Miami from being in the game to the way they allowed them to at least put up points was sort of a big difference in the halves. And although it wasn't sort of was it Tucker and Kamara were just reading that run game so well and
Yeah.
just not necessarily putting heaps of pressure on Beck, but was getting enough pressure on the O line to push them back enough to force Beck to make plays that he probably another couple of maybe a second or so longer he would have been more comfortable making plays. So I think they had a big impact. But like I say, I think it was a very cagey first quarter. I don't think any team wanted to do too much, but also at the same time, the defenses were just withstanding pressure. And I think when I was sort of watching rewatching like the highlights and stuff, there were a lot of 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, third and plus yardage. And that was obviously, I think, having a big impact because you were then forcing Beck to have to make the plays. And I think
Yeah,
there was a few passes I saw in the first half which were not good passes. But at the same
yeah.
time, that was a mixture of the pressure coming onto him, but also just a bit of nerves and a bit of, poor route running and things like that.
Yeah. Well, first half, they had Miami had yeah, 20 rushing yards on 12 attempts. They'd held Mark Fletcher to under what like to 1.6666 yards a carry in the first half, and it felt like one of them. And this has happened with Mark Fletcher a few times, I think, in the playoffs. And this isn't a bad thing. It sounds like a bad thing, but it's not. You get those players where sometimes like how Miami unlock Carson Beck through Malachi Tony and through Mark Fletcher. And usually it's get Mark Fletcher going and then you open up Carson Beck to open up to properly then get open up Malachi Tony. They didn't let Mark Fletcher open up. They didn't let Miami have those long, sustained drives. And like you say, kept putting them in for 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 6, obvious passing down situations. And they knew exactly what was coming. And Indiana, all credit to them. I talk about Miami's defensive front, and it's absolutely right to talk about Miami's defensive front. They were monstrous. But Indiana's defensive front was doing everything also as well, and as well as a unit within the whole defense. Coverage was tight. They weren't letting too many things get and slip past them. Um, and it isn't until with Matt Fletcher, I found there's been a couple of times in these playoffs where it's been like you are getting stuck. You will your first 15 handlings of the ball will be for a yard. It'll be a loss of a yard. It'll be 2 yards. It'll be 3 yards. It'll be a loss of a yard, and you'll keep going through them until bang, you hit one. Right, you hit one, and I feel like this set him up because. But yeah, we'll go on to like the second half and Miami's come back in a minute. But like, I feel like either they've set it up or they remembered something. But yeah, it was absolutely it was exact. The first half, especially, was exactly what we thought it would be. Both defensive fronts, both O lines, your trench battle. That was the first half.
Yeah, I mean, I think really probably in the first half, I'd probably I'd probably give the edge to the Indiana side in the trench battle. But I think by the time they came out in the second half, they'd worked so hard in the first half, they just didn't have the energy and the gas to keep going at that rate. And
Yeah.
eventually, Miami's power and strength came through, and that's probably what kickstarted their comeback.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Miami did really well, well, I say really well, one of the things Indiana did really well was like how they navigated allowing I mean, first quarter, um Mendoza goes 7 of 10, 66 yards. Second quarter goes 5 of 7 for 50 yards. So he's gone 12 of 17 in the first half for 66, but that's 116 yards. Pretty standard Mendoza stats, right? It's not pretty clean with the ball, good completion percentage. You're not talking long, deep, 40-yard bombs all over the place. Methodical, getting the ball out quick. One thing that Miami did, and you can tell where they were trying to win this game, or what some of this game plan was like creating the overloads. It was bringing the safety down on the blitzes. It was bringing the corners down on certain blitzes. It was how they were disguising and putting together the packages on the defense in and when they blitzed. Because again, and this is where I think I wanted to start getting into it, so that they could punch Mendoza in the face and rattle him early.
Well,
But
they got a hit on him early as well, didn't they? Because
they
he was
got
bleeding. That
multiple.
was it.
They got
Was it
multiple hits on
the
him
was
early.
it the
That was the
was it
targeting.
first quarter or second quarter where he got a helmet to the chin.
First quarter, now
Yeah.
the blatant targeting call that was missed,
Yeah, which wasn't called, which was
which was
ridiculous.
not called. And look, I'm sorry, but it was. And I get that. I don't get people's frustration. I like the rule of targeting. I like any rule that protects unnecessary collisions of helmets and tries to eliminate concussions. I like it. What I don't like about targeting is how it's called and how it's enforced. And when things like that, which are textbook examples of targeting and don't get called. Whereas you get two guys who go for a tackle and they both just so happen to twist the body the wrong way at the wrong time. And the sides of the helmets kind of accidentally clank off each other. In pure accident, in a normal tackle, they'll get called for targeting and someone's ejected. But then that happens and didn't see nothing. I don't like it.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the key points, especially, we're talking about not being able to get Mark Fletcher going. Um, Malachi Tony got 4 targets in that first half for 11 yards and 3 receptions. His total stats, I think, for the whole game were 122 yards. So,
Yeah,
it shows the difference in the first half and the second half because you have, you know, you had Fletcher getting 90 plus yards on the ground, and you had Tony getting 110 plus yards in the air. And you know, it was almost at that point though when Miami started really getting into their groove, it was almost too little, too late. And
yeah,
that I think Indiana had done their job of just kind of preventing them from getting them in the game, taking
yeah.
an early lead, and then just that third quarter, it blocks punt for a to take the lead. Was it 17? Was it 17-3 or something like that? Or 17? Yeah,
It was
17
17-7.
7, 17-7. I think that was the real, for me, that was the point where I just thought Miami aren't getting back in this.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely fair. Absolutely fair.
I think the fact that Indiana had the ball for nearly a quarter more than Miami had it.
Yeah.
You know, they, I think the difference was 13 minutes or near enough 13 minutes. India, that's nearly that nearly is a quarter of play. And when you're down the ball for an entire quarter effectively, you really are up against it to win the game. And,
12
you know,
minutes and 48 seconds. So, yeah, pretty much spot on
yeah.
13 minutes.
So it's, they, I think, to be honest, it's one of those where I don't think if Miami had won the game, I don't think you could have said they didn't deserve it. But the fact that Indiana won it, I think just completes the underdog story, if you like.
Yeah.
So
And that, but I say just what sticking on the first half for one more, like for one more minute. Um, if I can get the cumes. The first half time of possession, by the way, it was pretty much right. Both halves were pretty much exactly the same in terms of time of possession. So Indiana didn't have like the first half; they just dominated way more versus the second half. Um, the time of possession in the first half was 11 minutes 51 to 18 minutes and 9 seconds in favor of Indiana. In the second half, it was 11 minutes 45 seconds to 18 minutes 15 seconds. So pretty simple. So the Indiana game plan and then the way that Miami's game plan had changed, that was clearly pretty similar in terms of the way that worked. The difference was the first half, Miami couldn't get Nish going. The second half, they had to get everything going as much as possible and keep getting the way up the field. Um, the other thing I did want to mention, though, in terms of the first half, was nope. They were no, actually, it was the fact that it was the Indiana offense didn't light anything up, right? They had 169 yards to 69 yards, which, by the way, nice. They had 53 on the ground to Miami's 20. They had 116 in the air to Miami's 49. Now, obviously, that sounds like they were much better than Miami on offense, but as far as any normal first half goes, it does show like that they're not completely insane first half stats. They're pretty standard for an offense that was generally halted quite a bit in a very defensive affair, but still had a bit of a better time than their counterparts. Miami, their drives in the first half went 5 and 20, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 9 and 43 for a missed field goal in a doink, which if I'd opened my window, I'd have heard it with the TV on mute because that was loud. That was more of a clank than a doink.
As I say, it wasn't really a doink. It was more of a bang. It was awful.
Yeah.
It was one of the worst doinks I've ever heard.
Um, Absolutely clattered, but Miami literally got nothing going. And the I did write this stat down. I put it up on Twitter because like I spent the whole of almost half time calculating this in my head off my dome. So by the way, this is mental arithmetic. This
Right, check the
Miami,
maths. Check the maths when it comes out. Hang on, let me write this down.
right? Miami's first down that they gained in the game was 13:37 to go in the first quarter. What's 2 minutes? That's a minute and 23 seconds into the game, right?
Mhm.
Their second first down that they gained in the game had 3 minutes from four to go in the second quarter. That's 25 minutes and 33 seconds of in-game play in which Miami did not get a first down.
It's like watching the Jets then.
Just like watching the Jets.
Did you have to take your shoes and socks off to count with that? To do that? Or were you just using your fingers?
This is why, and this is I don't like taking true shots at the Americans while we're doing a podcast about American football and all that sort of stuff. But like this is why we call it maths, not math, because we have to do it more than once and we do it more in abundance.
Oh.
So I guarantee you we'll get no hate for that one because no one was listening past this point anyway. But it shows the dominance that I think Indiana really did have in the fact that they wouldn't let Mark Fletcher get going. They made Carson, but they told Carson Beck, go and beat us. I dare you. Right. And in that first half, Carson Beck didn't. Carson Beck couldn't. And that shows in 3 drives in which to go 3 and out, 1 drive in which to go 5 and out, and the other one which was nine plays, 43 yards, and a missed field goal. Going at 10-0, you're thinking Indiana have pretty much wrapped it up. The game's not over. We've seen more than 10-point comebacks in the last few days, let alone in the playoffs or in anything altogether. We've seen this story a billion times before. The fat lady hasn't started singing yet, right? Miami come out. Indiana come out, start the second half. They go 6 plays, 6 yards, and 1 punt. Right? Miami get the ball. They go 2 plays, 62 yards, and a touchdown. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a game. And this is where I was talking about with Mark Fletcher and where I said I've got something to come back to in the second half. Mark Fletcher gets stopped and stopped and stopped and stopped. And then after 10 plays, after 15 plays, after whatever, the Miami offensive coordinator remembers, oh, yeah, you can run outside the tackles. They told Mark Fletcher, run outside the tackles. And what happens when he runs outside the tackles? 57-yard touchdown. Who would have thought it?
You're not throwing shade on the OC at Miami, are you?
I throw shade at anyone. I support an NFL team that has two of the best, the arguably the best defense running back tandem in the NFL, if not one of the best, and has one of the top two, maybe three running backs in the entire NFL. I also support a college team that prides itself on the running backs it puts out there and having a strong running game. I will throw shade at anyone who doesn't utilize someone like Mark Fletcher to their appropriate abilities.
That's the same running game at college where your lead running back has entered the portal because he don't want to be there anymore.
Is that
Has gone to,
is that
has
the
gone
is that
to,
the is that five
hasn't he
star
gone to
Savion
Georgia Tech?
Hyder or the national champion that Sam's took off us because he's in the NFL right now?
Uh, I was
No,
going to
hasn't
go with the gut. Go
Justice
on.
Haynes, hasn't he just gone to Georgia Tech?
Yeah, that's the guy I was. That's the guy I was going with. Justice Haynes.
Listen, just
Uh,
Justice Haynes hasn't got the bottle to stay as a Michigan man. That's not our fault.
fair enough.
But no. But I'm saying like what annoys me though is when you have got running back to the talent of Mark Fletcher and you spend every single run
Yeah,
he's going inside in between the guard and the tackle or in between the tackle and the center. It's so frustrating because he's not the fastest, but let him get into that space and watch how he jukes and misses a couple of tackles and he's gone. He's gone and no one was catching up to him. And it was so nice to actually see that they were willing to say, okay, then go between go out outside the tackles, and then look what happened, and we got an explosive play out of it.
you were talking. You were talking about Carson Beck, and all right, while he did throw the interception at the end that cost them the game, if you like.
Which we talk
Excuse
about
me.
the fact that that was an awful throw.
Yes,
It was an awful throw. Well,
we'll
that
get to it.
actually
We'll get
leads
to it.
me into something I was going to say. That throw was so underthrown. And ever since he's had that elbow surgery, he has not been able to throw the ball with power. He's so underpowered when throwing the ball. If you ask him to throw it downfield and throw it longer than, say, I don't know, 25, 30 yards, you are asking for trouble because he can't, with that elbow surgery he had, he can't generate the power that he needs to get it down the field. How wide is an NFL field? Somebody tell me.
Crap, I was doing this
Anybody?
the other day. Damn it. Um,
53 yards. Right. 53 yards is the width of the field. Carson Beck was okay if he used just 35 of them. If he stayed inside the numbers, Carson Beck was 14 for 19, 195 yards, 75.7 passing grade. That was inside the numbers. So that 35-yard window. As soon as you ask him to throw outside the numbers, 5 out of 13 for just 42 yards, with a pass grade of 29.8. And of those 5 he made, 3 of them were screen passes. Outside the numbers, he was terrible. Down the field, he was terrible. He doesn't have the arm power anymore.
where the
And I can't see him being drafted very high at all.
oh, there we go. There we go. Sorry, one sec. I did. Sorry, I'm just getting up
Well,
that
he's
the
not exactly got
location chart.
the thing with him as well is he's not exactly got like that dual threat of being able to run outside the pot. He's more of a. I'm not saying he doesn't have the ability to do it, but he is more of a traditional quarterback player than he is like one of these dual threat scrambling players. So he
And
doesn't have that.
that's
He doesn't have that ability
yeah,
to get himself out of the situation. So if he wants to, if he wants to succeed in the NFL, he's going to need that deep ball threat. So the only way that he's going to do that is he's probably going to end up getting drafted in what, fifth, sixth round, and
probably yeah.
probably have to spend the first year building up his arm strength.
I know, and it's just like that was half the reason why Georgia got rid of him, or not got rid of him, but said thank you, we're not going to go with you because, like you said, he's not really the running type, which means he's got to be able to do the rest of it really well. And ever since his elbow surgery, he just has not got it in his arm. And I'm sure that some people will say, well, he can still do this, or he can still, and he can. Yeah, great. You know, who
But
if you were asking me
you're
who would,
limiting your offense, aren't you? Because he
yeah,
doesn't scramble, which means that if he's going to go into a team as a starting quarterback, you need to make sure you have a very good run game. You need to make sure you have a very good O line, and you need to basically just play slot receivers. That's
if
all
you
you
could
do.
put if you could put him and Riley Leonard together and like mash them into a QB, you'd have a really good running QB and a really good throwing QB. But you just have at the moment you have a QB that throws and a QB that runs, and maybe in Indianapolis I'll just have to take him as well, and they'll have to put two QBs out and yeah. So
Yeah,
I just thought it was really interesting when I saw those stats and I saw how he was performing inside the numbers compared to throwing outside the numbers. I just thought that was astronomical in stat wise. That it just I thought, well, I'm bringing that up at some point.
But like, I mean, you say that. I was reading something there, so I might have missed like 10 seconds what you said. But also, like, Caleb Williams is like the polar opposite. You know, so Caleb,
Yeah,
like you put Carson Beck, like a normal, a relatively traditional pocket passing quarterback in the numbers, in the pocket, really, really good, making you run of the mill throws, and he makes some really good ones. And this is something I'm going to come on to in a second. Like, he makes some really good stuff. But he said, get him outside the numbers, get him off his rhythm, get him off whatever, and he does nothing. Caleb Williams is like the polar opposite, and I don't get it, right? Because Caleb Williams is so bad at run of the mill plays. If you ask him to throw just a screen outside to DeAndre Swift, he will miss him by 3 yards. But if you ask him to do 750 yards of running behind the line of scrimmage, turn around, spin, and fling one up, it'll land as a dot to Colston
yeah.
White.
Run
And
back
absolutely,
20 yards and then throw
yeah.
it literally the length of the field and
yeah,
just have your man catch it and
in
unmarked in the end zone.
in into
Sorry, Sam.
into DJ Moore, who's marked by 7 different people. It will land in DJ Moore's hands in the most perfect place possible. Caleb Williams is insane at hero ball, but just can't do run of the mill stuff. Carson Beck being the exact polar
It's
opposite.
almost like
Uh,
Caleb Williams needs a shit O line to be good.
yeah,
He needs to be forced to basically do. He is he is the dream off script player.
he's a
But the
street
moment you get
football
him
player.
on, the moment he's on script, his head goes and he loses all composure. But
Like
put him in a position where he's having to throw off his back foot 2 feet or in the air or bombing it 60 yards, and he's perfect.
It's like these freestylers, you see these freestylers and thing, and they'll do all the tricks and everything else with the flicks and everything with the ball. You actually put them in a football game, they're useless.
Yeah,
absolutely. Do you know
Jeremy
what?
Lynch is the perfect example of that.
So I used no, I used to play with someone who did that. Obviously, they weren't like a professional freestyle footballer, but that's their thing. It was all flicks, tricks, and all the freestyle stuff. And like, I swear to asking them to play if I'd run up on the left and I'd say play me in there, and I'm like, it's just the ball's nowhere near me, and it was horrible. I absolutely hated it. Anyway, um, we've got plenty of time tomorrow, Sam, to shit on Caleb Williams and do all that sort of stuff.
I'll be doing no shitting on Caleb Williams. He played very well against us,
Yeah, well, I will be
apart from the
because
three interceptions. Oh,
I
well,
mean, I will be because I have reason to because he plays for the Chicago Bears. Um, but getting back on, it was like I was really impressed with and going back onto Carson Beck, I was genuinely impressed with some of those. Um, the Miami O line held up a little bit better. But also, it became a lot more. Once Mark Fletcher had that breakaway, by the way, and it seemed to kind of happen off that, and it seemed to kind of stem off that, which again, like I said, get Mark Fletcher going, you can open up Carson Beck, you can open up Malachi Tony, you can open up so many other things. Mark Fletcher has that big run, and then what I was really impressed with was the way Carson Beck then stood up. Some of those throws that he made, particularly in the fourth quarter, as they were going on these drives and having to keep in the game, some of those throws that they made were big boy throws. They were into tight windows. They were on, granted, relatively quick. A lot of them were kind of, you get some of them over the top through the middle. Malachi Tony's doing it on a slant route. Get it into Malachi Tony there. Get it over here. Get it over. But he was making some big boy throws. He was making some NFL ready. I say to an extent NFL ready throws. Some of those plays that he made were fantastic, and I just thought when the chips were down, and it was a case of Indiana said, "Go and beat us, Carson Beck. Mark Fletcher's not going to do it for you. You go and beat us." Miami then said, "Okay, let's make it simple. Just do this. You will beat them on this." And granted, it's relying a fair bit on Malachi Tony, or um, it's relying a fair bit on Daniels or someone. But I thought I was really impressed with the way Carson Beck stepped up and made some of those throws um that he probably shouldn't have been making, and he definitely wasn't making in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have a bad game. I think it's, obviously we talk about the fact that he can't throw beyond 35 yards, but he didn't have a bad game. And I think, I mean, as we've already mentioned with the first half, I think it was just basically that it was just the plan was to just stop Mark Fletcher, and it worked. And then the second half, it was what I found noticeable was the moment that Miami sped up the plays in terms of in between plays was when they started catching Indiana out, because Indiana couldn't. I think before, especially in the first half, they were able to set themselves a little bit better, and they weren't able to do that. And that was a bit of hurry up because of the fact that they were, you know, a touchdown down pretty much most of that second half at the very least. But I just think that I, I I never watched the game and thought Indiana looked uncomfortable. I never thought that they were going to
Yeah,
lose that game, and I think
I
that's
thought
probably that's credit to, I think, to Indiana.
I thought there was a point where I thought they could. I wouldn't say that they would lose the game, but I thought that it's open here, and
Yeah,
Miami
there
very
was
much could
the
take
door was
it.
ajar, but it was very quickly shut.
Um, there was a specific drive as well, I think, where um, I, let me just go on here a sec. There was a point where, yeah, I think when they brought it back to 24-21, and they got the ball off. Yeah, when they brought it back to 24-21, or when they brought it back to 17-14, when Mark
Yeah,
Fletcher got his second touchdown, and I think Miami had made a really good defensive stop.
yeah.
Maybe, yeah, I think it was around that time. Miami had put some really good defense up. The problem you ended up getting there was though that, like, I think it was a really good point, and then Miami could have come off the field, and then there was a penalty that kept them on and kept Indiana's drive going, and Indiana go down and put points on, and it just, I think, just killed everything. It was, but I genuinely thought there was a point where I thought Miami could do this. Miami could genuinely do this.
Well, it's like that the field goal that Indiana kicked towards at the end of the game to go 27 up. Um, I was really surprised they went there because I was, it only left it still left them open to, defeat by touchdown sort of thing,
Yeah,
and you did wonder whether hindsight's a wonderful thing. Yes, he got the field goal and then they got an interception, so it doesn't matter. But if he kicked the field goal and then Carson Beck hadn't, he could have still lost it.
Yeah.
Whereas if he'd got a touchdown there, but or not got a touchdown at all, so it's like. But I was surprised when he kicked it at the end. I did expect him to try and drive for the touchdown. But how's I listed three moments in the game, and you tell me which one you think is the best moment. I've called this the whoosiest Whoser moments. So
Okay.
there's the McHale blocked punt that they recovered for a touchdown.
Yep.
The Mendoza crucial fourth down scramble for a touchdown. Or the Jamari Sharp interception that prevented Miami going down and scoring a touchdown. Without those happening, the score is very different. But which one's the most important? Which is the whoosiest Whoser moment?
I think it has to be the Mendoza 12-yard scramble. I think it has to be. Yeah, oh yeah, obviously you're talking a completely different game if the if the blocked punt doesn't happen potentially, but there's so much time left on the game that I don't think it makes I don't think it actually changes the result of the game. I think some of the slight parts of the game plan change and all that sort of stuff. I just don't think it changes the entire game. Whereas that 12-yard run by Mendoza, I think I look at that and you say that's what winners do.
And when you
That's
think that his total stats rushing was 7 for -8 yards, and you think
Yep,
he got 12 yards on that play,
yep.
you're in the same boat as me when I was looking at them, and I was like, you look at his stats for rushing, and then you think he got 12 yards on that play, and he's still at -8 for 7 for -8. That's got to be the play of the so.
That is noted in my notes here that he had a 12-yard run for a touchdown and still ended up on -8 yards rushing. Um, but this is the play I wanted to ask you about because like I was watching that play. Watching it physically as it's happening, great. It was amazing to watch. I need to know what the radio coverage of this play was like because the way that a radio presenter has to give you the image. They have to let you see the play without physically seeing anything.
Yeah, and
What was it?
it's there, and like you said, they're far more descriptive on the radio with what actually, you know. So Indiana sit at the whatever line, 4 yards back. Such in the gun, but they really describe what you can see, and um, he was like the main sort of commentator. I can't remember who it was. Forgive me. And he was like Mendoza's going to try and run. Mendoza's running. Oh, 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 oh! He's in. He's just got louder and louder and louder as Mendoza ran further and further and further. And I was like, and to me, you hear that and you're like, right, okay. And then you actually see it afterwards and you see the images, and then you can actually put the commentary that you've heard in your head
Yeah,
with the pictures. So yeah, it's just I don't like not watching games and whatever, but it's like Sunday night football, that 1:15 kickoff on the NFL, that's usually always a radio commentary for me. Um, so it's not bad. It's at least descriptive enough.
yeah. I mean, I'm rewatching it now on the phone, but I just and just the bit that gets me right is when he's tackled at the 5, no, the 4-yard line, and he spins and he puts his hand down and kind of uses that to push himself back up and spin into. And then look, that I don't think I'm not going to send the picture through, but like the image you've got the one from facing his face and the one facing the back of his helmet, two photos taken at the same time when he's all the way stretched out.
Right.
He's just
This should
sit.
show this should show our age. Do you remember Street Fighter 2 on the
Yes.
Super Nintendo? Right. Do you remember when if you were fighting Dalsim and he used to jump up and do that spin pirouette kick towards you?
Yeah.
When you watch Mendoza and he's running and he's doing that spinning, all I can think of is Dalsim doing that spinning kick on Street Fighter as he's coming at you. Yeah.
I can see it. I can see it.
And if you're quick enough, you can get your Ryu character in and do a Hadouken and you know knock him out that kick and beat him.
But like, yeah. But one of the things I say is like the Miami were in at that point. You thought Miami had a chance, right? They had a genuine chance of getting back into this, of potentially taking this game right to Indiana and maybe even winning the game, right? I thought there was a real possibility. The defense was stepping up. They weren't letting. I mean, Indiana's first drives of the first half. Second half, sorry, 6 plays, 6 yards, 4 plays, 22 yards, 3 plays, -2 yards. The Miami defense really, really stepped up and didn't let Indiana get much out of it. And then it's the whole cometh the hour, cometh the man. You need your Heisman winner to pull something out and really just kind of put the team on his back. And that's exactly what Mendoza did. That's why he won the Heisman.
I was
That's
going to
why
say that's
Indiana
why
are
he's a
national
Heisman winner.
champions. Yeah, and that's why Indiana are national champions. That's why he's a Heisman winner because Mendoza, like when you pull out things like that, and those kind of moments, and I get it's as great as it was. It's not necessarily as flashy, but you look at moments like and I guess obviously Indiana was still winning at that point, so maybe not exactly the same. But I look at that like I kind of equate that thing to Vincent Company blasting it into the top corner against Leicester.
Yeah.
And you just think
Well,
you need that one moment. You need your quarterback to step. You need someone to step up and put the game on your back, and that's what he did.
what does Martin Tyler say? Come off the man, come off the hour, Vincent Company.
Yeah.
Um.
Oh,
So
what was it? Aguero said, "No, Vinny, no, don't shoot."
don't shoot, don't shoot. Right. So this Indiana winning the national championship is a true underdog story.
Right.
Where does it fit? Is it better than Miracle on Ice? Is it better than Greece winning Euro 2004? Is it better than Leicester winning the Premier
No, it's
League?
not. No, and I'll argue that one to the day I die. It's not better than
I
Leicester
put
winning the
it
league.
I put it better than Miracle on Ice. I put it better than Greece winning the Euros because you only play like 4 or 5 games in 2004. But I put Leicester when you think about 38 games and everything else. I put the Leicester winning above thing, but I did put it in second place. So those four.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I like it. I'm happy with that. What do you
Sam,
reckon, Sam?
I'd
do
still,
you know what Miracle on Ice was?
no.
Oh, it's the Americans beating the Soviets at ice hockey.
Oh, right, okay.
Um, Sam, calm down. You're getting too excited about it.
It's
I don't
ice
know.
hockey. I don't care for ice hockey.
There's a very good Kurt Russell film about it. Go and watch it. It's called Miracle.
I don't know. Right. By the way, Sam, for you, as Nick's picture froze for you.
Yeah, it's been frozen for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking the same thing because I can see the look on your face just a bit like, eh?
Yeah, I've frozen for some reason.
Yeah. Um.
Mm.
I'd put
No,
the
but
Leicester one is way above. That's
yeah,
that's a
gotta be,
proper miracle.
gotta be.
Mainly because they had Jamie Vardy as a striker and he's a rat.
Harsh.
Um. By the way, Nick, normally if you just click off and on with your camera again, it'll reset it and normally work fine.
I know I haven't got any control over Zoom at the moment.
Okay. That's
Instead,
okay.
he leaves.
Okay, right. Well, now, um, while we do, I was going to mention something that went on at halftime, and um, talking the I totally forgot to before when we went from first half to second half, and I do want to mention this because it's funny to an extent, right? So, no, it's not funny. That's not true. But that first half said about Miami's defense, especially that defensive front, and especially the packages that they threw. Some of the hits they got in on Mendoza were questionable, right? They were questionable. Referees, to an extent, which I like, let them play. Especially when we talk about the one that bloodied up Mendoza's nose.
Mhm.
That was that was targeting, and that was
I mean, the fact that they called that out and said Miami need to be careful. They've already got one person missing the first half for targeting. Like even they were like, "That's targeting," and
yeah.
I was shocked that that didn't get
Well,
booth looked at.
well, I mean, right. So again, watching this live, I had the Skycast on one laptop and I had the main feed on the TV. You watch the original play, and someone tried pulling me up on it. I'm like, it, hindsight, like, hindsight. We'd all got given the replays a few couple of minutes later, but on that play, it just looked like Mendoza got put flat out as a blocker, and
Yeah.
I sat there a bit like, whoa, what a hit! Didn't even think it was Mendoza for a second.
Mm.
I saw like Oliver Hodgkinson was like, Fernando Mendoza's body might have just been removed from his spine. I'd said like that was full on hit him in the face, let him know you like give him a hit
Mm.
early, let him know you're there kind of thing. It just looked like a monster of a hit that lay Fernando Mendoza out. Obviously, you get the replay, you see the helmet goes into the chin, all that sort of stuff. And you realize looking back on it, there was some of those hits were dodgy, and some of those hits were late,
Mm.
very late, and didn't get called. And I want to
which
kind of
was
throw
which
it.
was ironic because in the fourth quarter, when Miami were third and 15, there was a late hit and they called it straight away on Carson Beck,
Yeah.
and he got the
Um,
first down again.
but did you hear what Signetti said at halftime?
No.
So obviously, like, as they do, you're walking off into halftime hits. The coaches and the players are all walking off and down the tunnel, and they stop the coach as he's going down and give him a little couple of questions. Holly Rowe, who by the way is fantastic. I love Holly Rowe. I feel like as much as I hate the idea of these halftime interviews and stuff, I feel like if Holly Rowe stopped me, I'd just be like, I can talk to you. She just seems so lovely. Um, I feel like you can't be too mad when it's Holly. But Signetti was not happy, right? And his quote was, well, there's three personal fouls on the quarterback not called in one drive that need to be called because they're obvious personal fouls. I'm all for letting them play, but when you cross the line, you've got to call it. And they were black and white calls. Straight up called out the officials on the
Mm.
halftime broadcast. I was getting ready, so I was like getting when I was like, gonna go down, make a coffee. I'm gonna go get a bit of food. I'm gonna go get something to keep me going, provide my sustenance for the rest of the night. And as I'm walking out, I heard it on the TV, and I went, "Whoa, someone's getting in trouble. Someone's getting in trouble." I don't think he cares, and all that, but outright just telling the referees they've done a bad job on national television, international
Yeah.
television was a bold move.
Mm.
What's that? There we go. Um, Isn't it gonna come back? Isn't it coming back? Let me just double check.
I don't know. What I thought was funny and has been completely blown out of proportion. And this is one of the big storylines that for some reason has become a thing on the internet. Is at some point during the game, the cameraman puts a well-known person by the name of Ella Danger on
Never
camera,
heard of her. Never
And
well known
well, in certain circles, she's
in
well
certain
known.
circles. That's not a circle I move in. Got to be in the
um,
finance sector. I don't know them very well.
and then since then, it's been completely blown out of proportion. It was literally just she was put on screen and that was it.
Have you seen how quickly people kick off when Taylor Swift's shown once in a game?
Yeah, true. But
Now,
it's
imagine
more the
putting
fact
on
that it's more
someone,
the fact that she's come out and apologized, like apologized for being there and being found in the crowd. Like, come on.
which I don't get. If someone works in the finance sector, I don't get why it's a problem. Like I said, I don't know her. I've never seen her. You couldn't point her out of a lineup.
To be honest, I'm shocked that so many
Sweating a little
people.
bit.
I'm shocked that that was like the kind of surely that's on the cameraman. Like he obviously knew who she was and thought this is my opportunity.
Yeah,
But
100%.
it was
Um,
just it felt like a non thing because it's just at the end of the day she was there supporting whoever. Like it's not a big deal.
no, I absolutely agree. Even if I don't know who she is. Wow, it's getting sweaty in this room. Really, really sweaty in this room. Man, bloody hell. Um, I could only assume that Nick's not coming back. Um, So we'll start getting ready to wrap up a good chunk of this now. Gutted that Will couldn't make it. Obviously, would have loved to have heard in an Indiana fan's perspective on the game. And I know that well, a couple of weeks ago when we had Will on, his general ideas and how he looks at the game was very much appreciated by a lot of people. So a bit gutted that he couldn't be on. Um, Congratulations to Indiana. It has to be
Fully
said,
deserved.
obviously. Yeah, fully deserved. What Coach Signetti has done with that team and what he's been able to do and turn the entire program around is crazy. So last night, as okay, I've still got a couple of weeks. We've got the championship games, we've got the Super Bowl to go, but like I need to start getting my sleeping pattern somewhat back to a British sleeping schedule.
Until March
Um,
Madness.
until management. Yeah, but what's the point at this point? What's the point? Um, because then the UFL starts, and then like I don't know, the Canadian Football League will start in May or June, and I may as well not
You've got
bother.
the draft in April as well. Don't forget you're
And
gonna
there's the
have to be
draft,
up for that.
and there's yeah, so the
At least
college
you don't have to be up.
basketball.
At least you don't have to be up as late for the first day as you would have done in the last few years.
No, because like this is the problem. Like this is the thing, right? And when I set up the AAW network, when I started doing the podcast, that obviously, well, we met through, you were part of the flagship podcast, one of the guests on the flagship podcast that we did was like, when doing all of this, I forgot, I didn't think that like when you do this kind of thing and very, very grateful to be able to talk college football on such a wide scale and the NFL on such a wide scale. That like no, technically, I'm supposed to be there as a representative of I do everything as a representative of all 32 teams. The AAW NFL channels, they represent all 32 teams, not that. And that's me that's doing that stuff. The college football, we represent all 136 FBS schools, all 136 FCS schools, and all that sort of stuff. Not very well. We don't do the FCS very, very well, but we do talk a bit about SC. Like that's all on me. So no, I don't. Still have to stay up the whole draft. I still have to go through all 32 picks. The only thing I'm saying is on the Saturday, if anyone thinks I'm providing intense coverage of Saturday on the draft this year, you're very much mistaken. I don't give two shits who goes at the end of the seventh round, right? To a certain extent.
We'll leave that for Nick. Nick likes doing the later
Nick and
rounds.
Ollie. We'll get Nick and Ollie. We'll do an Ollie loves those late day
He
threes
does.
because
He loves deep round picks.
he does. It's brilliant. Yeah, we'll see if we'll get them two on. But um, yeah, you've got the rest of the college basketball season going into March Madness. You've got the NBA season, which I don't watch as much of, but I do try and watch a bit of. Pistons are absolutely crushing it at the
But
moment. So
NBA's just dropped down in the rankings of national sports in America to football. Football's now the third highest watched sport in the US.
Interesting. As in like
Found
our
that out.
football.
Yeah, as in soccer.
Got to imagine a lot of that's got to do with the World Cup in June.
I imagine so, and also I think the likes of Messi and those things played a big part in
Yeah,
elevating the sport in America. But yeah, it's now taken over the NBA, which is quite surprising given how American and baseball is. Um,
yeah,
I think it's just not watched as, although it is a national sport, it is watched. I don't think it's necessarily as watched. I think a lot more. It it comes across from the way I see it is that like little league baseball is a lot more widely accepted and focused on than say the national baseball league, so
yeah.
to speak. But
Um, yeah,
I'm sure it'll
but
swap
like,
back round once Messi leaves.
probably, yeah. But like I say, so you got the NBA until April, like the playoffs start in April. Pistons are doing really well, so obviously I'm following along with that. Red Wings are doing really well in the ice hockey, so obviously I'm keeping an eye on that. Baseball starts in March, and I weirdly, like genuinely, I mean, I weirdly like baseball. Never thought I ever would, but I got into it a couple of years ago, and I'm really really enjoying it. So there's baseball, and then you've got the CFL. Yeah, yeah. There's no point, right? Listen, we're just gonna stick with it. I'm on the sleeping schedule that I am on. We'll deal with it.
For life.
Um, yeah. So with that being said, though, like I'm on a drive at the moment. We're on a drive. The college football season is over. The NFL season is coming to an end. There's so much to do this off season. If you want to be part of the network, please do send us a DM on social media. We're looking for writers. We're looking for other podcast hosts. We're looking for a variety of things. If you are UK based, you love American football. There are voluntary positions. Like Sam does not get paid out of this. He does it because I have dirt on him, and I'll release it if he doesn't turn up for more than 2 weeks. I was going to say, because it's not even out the love of his own love for the game. It's purely on the basis that I'm
Well,
blackmailing
I
him.
only watch Texas, so
Exactly. So it's purely on the basis of blackmail.
Mhm.
Nick does it out the kindness of his own heart, though. He does. But yeah, we'd love to have it. They're all voluntary positions, but like it's good. We all have a laugh. We all have a lot of fun, and it's an opportunity for if you want to try and start making something out of this, or you want to turn a passion into a little bit more of a hobby. Just let us know. We're happy to help. Podcast hosts, writers, all sorts. Um, yeah, hit the links in the description of this episode. Find us on social media. Talk to us. Um, what I was going to say though was I watched last night because, like I say, the sleeping schedule, and I'm still up very very late. College basketball is free on the zone at the moment, so put on a bit of college basketball. Michigan played Indiana last night. Michigan 2 years ago, college football national champions. Um, Notoriously, look, Michigan football is king. Generally quite good at most sports, but football, they're a football school. Indiana is traditionally a basketball school, right? They're not good at football. Losingest program in the history of college football. They're a basketball school. Now, Michigan whooped Indiana last night in the basketball. Michigan are number two, number three in the country at basketball. So what I'm saying here is Michigan is a basketball school. Indiana is a football school. And whether it's the Matrix, whether it's the simulation, whatever it is, someone's pissing about with it, and it's hilarious, right? It's so funny. Um, we may have hit a multiverse. I don't know what it is, but the world's backwards. Where Indiana's a football school, Michigan's a basketball school, and this is where we're at in life. So hilarious. We'd love to get. With that
I do
being
have a
said,
quick question
go
before
on,
we go. I just wanted
go on.
to, because obviously, in the way Indiana have gone about building this team and this roster, and you know, turning the franchise around. I wonder how much of an impact this might have going forward in terms of future, other franchises and other college teams adapting the way that they approach college football. Because obviously, one of the
Yeah,
big things about Indiana was a lot of their team are not necessarily your 5-star recruits out of college, blue chip sort of players. A lot of them are three, couple of fours,
Yeah.
but are seasoned college football players. They are more physical, they are bigger, they are stronger.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if that's going to change the dynamic going forward, potentially, as to how some college football teams will approach putting a team together. Because it showed, like, you look at that team and probably 2 years ago, majority of those Indiana players you will were second stringers, or you had Mendoza was at Cal, so it's not like they weren't big like household names like your Jeremiah Smiths or anything. They were just, most of them were just standard college football players, and I just wonder if do you think that this will see a potential shift, not major shifts, because I still think there's a lot of credit in getting 5-star recruits and that. But I just wonder if there's going to be a shift in how teams approach building a roster.
Um, I think. Do you know what? I think. What's his name? Nick Saban said it best, right? Was listening to him not long ago. Uh, a clip of him today, as he was talking about signing players and recruitment. And he said, at the end of the day, you don't look at star ratings for players, because who puts those star ratings together? Not coaches,
Media.
media. It's not coaches. It's not not to discredit any of them from my perspective. I can't. They know better than I do. But it's media people. It's people who haven't generally played. It's people who watch. It's people who talk. Coaches go off what you see and what you know and what you can put together. And he used the example of Damian Harris and Josh Jacobs. Now, Damian Harris was a third round, 87th overall pick in 2019. Josh Jacobs was a first round, 24th overall pick in 2019. Both of them were running backs out of Alabama. One of them is still in the NFL and having a fantastic career. The other one is already out of the NFL. Obviously, Josh Jacobs is the one still in the NFL. He was a 0-star recruit.
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs was a 0-star recruit to Alabama in 2016. Went first round in 2019, still has an NFL career to date. Damian Harris was a 5-star recruit the year before Josh Jacobs, so had an extra year in college, in the third round, and he's already out of the NFL. And he used that example, and he was like, look, at the end of the day, the stars are nice, don't get me wrong, but don't look at star ratings. Look at the tape, look at the film, and look and see what you know you can do with that talent. And
I mean, yeah, I mean, look at, I suppose if you're going by that, yeah, I mean, arguably the best, well, at least one of the two best quarterbacks in the NFL is a 0-star rated coming out of high school. He had to beg and basically send his own tape in to get himself on a college program.
yep.
He's now a regular in the playoffs. So yeah, in there is a lot of cases where you don't have to necessarily be, and sometimes in a lot of cases you don't look at the star rating, but it still makes a difference. Like, I mean,
Oh yeah.
Arch Manning was a 5-star recruit. Bryce Underwood, 5-star recruit. Now, there's no guarantee that either of those two players are going to necessarily make it in the NFL. They probably will, but for the most part, yeah. And I think probably, like you say, it's a lot different being in the game and picking your roster and picking the players you want on your team, and not looking at those stars and how they're being rated. but it still does make a difference.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it'll make a difference to how many schools are at which schools are after you. Some of that though as well, if you think about it, right? Some of that's marketing and it's
Mm,
what the genuine like what district are you in? What state are you playing high school football in? What position are you playing high school football in? What what are all these different things that can affect that how much take people see of you, how much exposure you get. Um Obviously we can get more into this, especially on recruitment, but also like what's changing is transfer portal.
mm,
And it's coming down to what how did Indiana build the roster? Transfer portal.
mm. That transfer portal is becoming a hell of a lot more important than probably over the last few years,
Way
especially with
more.
how mental nil seems to be getting, because obviously it's completely out of control now.
Oh
It's
yeah,
the one thing we said from the very start, the big problem with nil, and it's now we're now in that position now, unfortunately, with zero regulations on it. I mean,
yep.
one of the big things I think they were talking about with Texas this year. I mean, we've had record numbers of transfer players going into the transfer portal, and I think last time I checked, we were the number one team um, in terms of ranking in the portal. And a lot of that is because from the very start, they were saying, well, Texas has one of the biggest nil budgets in college football. They have so much that they can just chuck money at players.
Yeah.
And it's like, uh, it kind of has, although I get why they introduced it, it kind of now has become we're now becoming we're a lot of these are now semi-professionals, borderline professionals, or at the
To make
age
that
of
kind of money as a
16.
semi-professional at something. Oh, you know.
But you know
Some
what I
of
mean?
them,
Like
yeah.
it's because it's not you're not being paid to play for that team. You're being paid to use the so there it's a sideway way of being paid money, essentially sponsorship
Yeah.
deals and stuff like that. So you're still technically, I mean, you're still technically an amateur because you're not on an officially paid contract, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's weird. And one of the things that, like, I think, again, we'll get into this so much in the off season, right? Because
Mm,
obviously we're not going anywhere during the off season. We'll still be pumping out content a lot. Um, like, just look at the way the Demond Williams thing went down with our
mm,
Washington, and but how does the contract? How enforceable is the contract? How and colleges are now starting to get a bit more awake to what's going on, and they're doing that whole thing where like you go to a college, 4 years, you're due to make 10 million, and you average that out at like in your first year, you get 1 million, second year, you get 2 million, third year, you get 3 million, fourth year, you get 4 million. If you quit after year two and you now owe the school 7 million
mm.
because you have to pay back what they may have paid you in the future. And then there are these little contracts. So both sides of the coin can now start getting exploitative with each other and all that. It's crazy.
The thing that baffles me, and this is more just how how the college system seems to work, but it at a granular level, how weird is it that you can just be at a college or at a university, you know, you're on a scholarship, you're getting your nil, you're going to do your lessons and all of that sort of stuff, and you can just uproot and change your college. Like just from a basic, like in England, it's so difficult for you to move to transfer, so to speak, and
Yeah.
go to a different university because it doesn't work in the same way. And the whole concept that basically you can just uproot and just go, no, I don't want to go to this university anymore. I want to go study at another university. But actually, the real reason is you want to go and play college for someone else. And
Yeah.
the concept of it is just bizarre.
But But our university systems, and this isn't a dig per se at Americans, and when I make the joke about like we call it maths because we do it more than once, I will throw it like this is the education system. Our
Mm.
system is set up, our university system is set up because it's an education system. Theirs is a
Mm.
sports system that has education attached to it in so many ways. And
Mm.
you think that, like, I'm not being funny, but do you think it's going to be this easy to transfer universities if you are a finance major who
Oh,
doesn't play a
absolutely
single
not.
sport?
Yeah.
If you are just any other average Joe paying your tuition, or even those who are going to be on, if you're on like a physics scholarship, so what? Like,
Yeah.
tough.
There's no, the thing
Tough
is as
titties,
well, you're
bro.
not going to be able to just go, oh, I'm going to transfer out and go and do a scholarship there because one, the scholarship may not be applicable, but for some reason it's applicable across all sports related transfers. And that I mean, and this is why it is, it's becoming very much like a semi-professional sport, borderline professional in the sense that, you know, we're now starting to see contracts coming into play and players being sued because they're not meeting their contracts and all of this. And this is where we're starting to muddy the water in terms of what is college football and what is professional football.
See, this is a conversation for another day. I know I've got a rabbit hole we can go down, and I
Yeah.
don't want us to
Oh
go down
yeah, well, we
because
can
like
we can
timing. Um, but there is a rabbit hole I'm I'm
Mhm.
really interested to go down with you here. Um, having said this, by the way, I had one more thing that I wanted to mention, and I was going to do it when Nick came back, but Nick's not coming back now. He's put a text in the group chat. The Mark Fletcher Jr. on his 57-yard run set a record in the college football playoffs and now has the most rushing yards in college football playoff history with 532. The previous record was 470. Hang on, see if I can get the something. For if either 460 something or 470 something, but it was actually in the 14 playoff. So in the 3 years that there's been now a 12 team, no, sorry, the 2 years that there's been a 12 team playoff, still like the record belonged to someone in the 14 playoff. Do you know who? Can you tell me who the original holder was? Who he took that record off? Give you a clue. Hang
Saquon
on.
Barkley.
Um,
Just trying to think of potential. It's going to be someone more recent. Bijan? No, it couldn't be
nope.
Bijan. I don't know who it could be.
So the record was 476, and it was set in 2014 to 2015. So like the 2014 season, but the playoffs went into 2015.
So that means you're probably looking at someone potentially who got drafted in 2015, maybe
Yeah.
2016, depending on whether they made it, whether they declared or not. So that'd have been 10
Plus,
years
I
ago.
they got drafted in 2016, and I guarantee you know who it is.
Todd Gurley.
Nope.
He might have been a bit later. Um,
Give you one more clue. They're no longer in the NFL.
Todd Gurley would have fit. Uh, Adrian Peterson. Don't know
Nope.
why that name came into my head because he was there
Because
a
he was
lot
already in
longer.
the NFL by then.
Yeah.
Way in
Trying
the
to think of
NFL.
someone who got drafted in 2016. That was just before I was sort of watching. So that would have been a 8 year, well, 8-ish year career.
I'll give you one more clue.
Who drafted him? Just give me the team that he drafted to.
Dallas Cowboys.
Doesn't play anymore.
You look confused. When I tell you who it is, I don't think you're
Zeke,
going to kick
Zeke,
the
Zeke
Ezekiel
Elliott. Yeah,
Elliott.
I
Because
was
obviously,
just trying to rack my brain with who was at the Cowboys as a running back, and I couldn't think of his name, but I could picture him because of the I could picture the septum piercing.
Yeah, so he got 200. He only played two games in the 14 playoff in 2014 and 15. Got 230 yards in the Sugar Bowl that year and 246 yards in the national championship that
Pretty
year.
good, pretty good. And there's probably not been anyone who's. I wonder if he does he hold the single game record in a national championship?
Yeah.
Because I can't think of anyone else who would reach those numbers. I'm going to see if I can find it.
So obviously the Sugar Bowl was against Alabama for Ohio State, and the national championship was against Oregon that year. Four touchdowns as well in that national championship game.
I'm going to quickly look it up, see if he does hold the record.
So, I mean, Mark Fletcher got 112. That had put him fourth most rushing yards in a national championship.
Most rushing yards. There we go. It immediately jumped to the NFL ones. Yeah, it is Zeke Elliott with the 230.
Yeah, that's most in a semi-final, and then the most in a final is 246 by
Yeah, so
Ezekiel Elliott.
246 will be the most then. I think
And
the only Elliott's 230. Yeah, so other top playoff performances include Brian Robinson
yep,
Jr. 204 and Rodney Anderson.
yep. I've got the, I'm gonna say I've got the stats up in front of me via collegeplayoff.com/sports. And the records in the individual records on the official college football playoff website because they've got loads of them. Um, which obviously again I'm not gonna get right into right now
Yeah.
because that's a lot. Um, but again, without further ado, I'm just gonna say it now. Thank you, everybody. We've got next week we are going to do a season in review. We've got Adam back from College Football UK View. Nick won't be with us. He's got work for the next 3 weeks and can't. But we'll have Adam back next week for a 2025 season in review. Still figuring out exactly how that's going to look, but we'll be talking about it us all throughout the week. I do want to say before I go though, because next week is technically our last 2025 season episode with a lot of stuff that's come on going through the off season. Um, the numbers that we pulled in this season have been extraordinary. The fact that they've just got better and better and better and better and better throughout the off season, throughout the season has been incredible. And the numbers that we put up at the end of the season have been truly phenomenal. I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody brand new, everybody who came over from last season, who stuck with us, who follows us on social media, joins the Discord and interacts with us and all those different things. If you join us at all, we thank you so insanely very, very much for all of the support and the continued support that you've given the podcast. We will not be going anywhere during the off season. I am going to get one good night's sleep at some point, but I'll probably do it on a Tuesday instead. We will
We've
still
got
be
lots.
going.
We've got lots planned for the off season as well. Lots of really
So much.
fun and hopefully big things happening.
Hopefully, well, we've got guests. We've already got some guests lined up. We've got other guests that we're talking to. We've got some really, like I say, genuinely fun ideas. And then hopefully, and I think the most important, and this is what we need to mention, I think going off into it, the 2025 season may be over, Sam. And as sad as it was, like when the Nationals, when the game finished, it was really weird. Very, very somber moment because I'm not here to kiss my own ass, but like the amount of work I have put in this season throughout all these podcasts, throughout all the content on social media, the amount of work, and you just kind of go, oh shit, it's all over like that. It's all over.
Mm.
And it's not all over because again we've got so much to do. I had a massive day yesterday. You put wrapping up a load of things, and we've got the off season. We've got loads of little things to do, but um. It's been an insane. It's been such a good season. It's been a really, really cool season, and it was a bit sad that it was over. But actually, and as much as I kind of sat there like at quarter to 10 to 5 in the morning, to about 20 past 5 at morning, just kind of going, well, damn it, this is it. You actually go, do you know what? It's now time
Mm.
for
It's
us
the
to
build up
activate.
to activating the kingdom. Yeah,
We are activating the kingdom.
we're on a
Um,
countdown now.
we are on a countdown. The 29th of August, TCU versus UNC at Aviva Stadium in Dublin. And then the 19th of September, we go to Wembley Stadium where Arizona State are taking on Kansas. And as you can see behind, like, we've got so much to be excited for and so much to be grateful for. If you are in the UK, I know we do have a lot of audience from the States. If you're in the UK, right, and you have not booked your tickets yet to the Union Jack Classic, please do so now. Tickets are going fast. We want to see you there. I'll be there. Gary will be there. Nick will be there. Sam will be there. Hopefully, we know that all the guests, our guests will be, Adam will be there. We know Jimmy will be there from Canes Across the Pond. So many of us associated with, and all the other journalists, your Ollie Hodgkinsons, you the guys at the touchdown, and all that sort of stuff. They'll all be there as well. Cannot wait to see you, and hopefully, um, see some of you in Dublin as well, man. Like, we need to see some of you in Dublin.
We'll see.
Um,
Still haven't fully got the okay yet.
No worries. Well, like I say, there's so much to look forward to. We're here to get you through it all. Follow us on social media, join the Discord, follow us in individuals, and we will see you next week for our 2025 season in review with Adam. And until then, congratulations, Indiana.